The ground is dry, the sun is out, and the skies are blue. And this old girl's ready to put in the first sweet corn planting of 2025. Welcome to my farm, everybody. Hope you're doing well today. My name is Jason, and today is a big day at Wishwell Farms because we're going to be putting in our first sweet corn planting of 2025. I'm currently using a John Deere 7000 4-row corn planter that was manufactured in 1979. I've been using it on my farm for the past 20 years. It does a fantastic job of planting all of my sweet corn, green beans, and sugar snap peas when we grew peas. We have been growing and selling sweet corn at Wishwell Farms for over 30 years, and we are currently growing about 25 acres. We peaked at 35 acres about 10 years ago, but have settled on 25 acres. Let's take a look at the two varieties that are going in the ground today. All right, the two varieties that I am planting today are Bolt and Kickoff. Two early season varieties that have done very well for us on our farm for many years. And the cold soil emergence is phenomenal. So no longer the days of needing to wait for your soil to be close to 60 degrees before you can plant sweet corn. I have put in this corn at the end of March and early April before, and the stand has been amazing. So even with soil, cold, wet soil in the mid 40s, low 50s, the emergence is still great with these two varieties. So let's take a quick look at my spreadsheet that I follow for my corn planting. Here's planting number one. We're going to be putting in about 70,000 seeds of Bolt, which is approximately 66 to 69 days maturity. So about 3 acres of Bolt. We're starting off at 22,000 population. And then we're also putting about an acre and a half of Kickoff in. It's about a 69 to 71 day, about 35,000 seeds. And you can see I have SHQ. All the varieties that we plant on our farm are super sweets. Not the traditional super sweets, but the augmented super sweets. They have several different names, also known as SHQs. They have the most sweetness and the most tenderness. So in my opinion, and many of my customers' opinions, they are far superior to sugary enhanced synergistics and triple sweets. And since I plant nothing but SHQs on my farm, I don't have to worry about isolating them from other varieties. If I was planting sugary enhanced or the triple sweets, also known as synergistics, I would have to isolate the super sweets from those by a barrier of at least 500-foot distance, so there wouldn't be any cross-pollination, which can affect the tenderness and the flavor of the kernels. All right, I want to give you a quick rundown how I have my planter set up before we start planting. I have starter fertilizer in both tanks. In years past, this was starter and this was 28% nitrogen that I put beside and below the seed. And the starter would go right on top of the seed furrow. But I've replumbed it this year, so this line now goes into the same line as the starter fertilizer. So they're both starter fertilizers, and they get pumped on with this little electric pump through a filter into this manifold system that has 4 hoses, one going to each of the row units. So looking at the planter from the back, there's a hose that comes to each row unit through a little check valve there, and then comes out right there on that little rebounder, like a little seed firmer right above the seed tube. Those parts are all new this year. I replaced all of the depth gauge wheels, the double disc openers, the seed tubes, the seed tube protectors, and all new rebounders or seed firmers to apply my starter fertilizer right onto the furrow. And then right here is where we adjust our population. You have a driven and a driver with all these different sprocket combinations, and I currently have it set at 22,100 seeds per acre. Also at the back of the planter here are my insecticide boxes, where I do run a granular insecticide through just on my early plantings. I don't typically use these, but just to be on the safe side for my first 2 plantings, I want to make sure I'm covered for grubs, wireworms, and cutworms. I have encountered cutworms before. It's been quite some time. So I do run some Aztec granular insecticide through these boxes just for those first 2 plantings. It's a replacement for Lore's Band 15G. Whether it helps or not, I don't know, but it's just something I've practiced for the last 15 years just to make sure I have that early planting covered. And the final thing in the back of the planter that I want to show you is how we adjust the depth of our seed. This is a seed depth adjustment handle here, and you can see these little holes. Each hole represents a 1/4 inch. So you might not be able to see it through the front of the camera, but in front of this lever that I can pull up and make an adjustment with, there's 4 holes. So we're going to start out at 1 inch deep. Now in reality, that's probably going to be closer to 1.5 inches, and the reason I say that is because I am on conventional ground. This is normally where I have all my vegetable beds laid, but we're trying to rotate some things out of this field, and we're going to put some sweet corn in here to try to clean up some morning glory weed issues I've been having over the years. So this ground was disked last fall, and I purposely disked it nice and smooth so I could drive right into the field and start planting corn without cultivating it first. So just in case it is a little wet and sticky, at least it's dry on top, and that should allow me to get my corn in. Now when I move to our no-till fields, I will have to lower that to about 1.5 inches depth just to make sure we're getting that seed in deep enough. But in here, I'm guessing 1 inch is going to be about right, but we're going to plant a little bit and we'll get out and dig some seeds up and see how it looks. All right, we're going to start off with some Bolt sweet corn. These are the 2 new bags for this year. That's 50,000 seeds, and I have about 20,000 seeds left over from last year. I'm actually going to dump all this in first, spread it evenly between the 4 hoppers, and so we can get rid of it and not mix it with the new stuff, and then when it runs out or gets low, we'll throw in the new bags. All right, here we go. Putting in the first sweet corn seeds of 2025. Right here is where I turn on my starter fertilizer. And you won't be able to see it through the camera, but there's a gauge on top there. I want that to be at 30 PSI. So I can adjust it right here. Got it at 30 PSI, and that will give me 4 gallons to the acre of starter. All right, let's go back and check the seed depth. So here's something pretty cool I wanted to show you. You can see a lot happening right here. There is the seed furrow trench that is being made by these double disc openers. These are the depth gauge wheels, so it doesn't allow the planter to sink in too deep. And if you look closely right there, you can just barely see it. There is my rebounder, which is like a seed firmer. See how it's right down inside that trench? And you can see the liquid from the starter fertilizer right there. And then back here are the closing wheels, getting ready to do their job to close the soil in around the trench. So you come back here behind it, and you can see closing wheels push that dirt in to close that trench around the seed. Another thing I see here are the sprinkles of Aztec insecticide. All right, let's see if we can find us a seed. So I just take a screwdriver and dig away the dirt, and oh, I just found one. Right there. That's perfect. It's down there about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Let's see if we can find another one. The seeds should be going in about every 9 or 10 inches. See them right there? I'd say that's perfect. I like that depth. Just a hair over 1 inch. I'm gonna spend a minute here digging some seeds up from every row just to make sure they all are right where I want them. So far, I like what I'm seeing. Ideally, I'm shooting for about 1.25 inches right now. And that's about where they all look to me. I definitely wouldn't want to go any shallower. I'm willing to go just a little shallow on this first planting just because I want it to pop up quick. but it can also be harmful to not have it deep enough. I'm seeing a few of them that are barely an inch. Now that one's down there a good inch, inch and a quarter. All right, we're gonna roll with it. I like what I'm seeing. Just completed my first pass down and back. Everything is going in beautifully. So 2 things I just thought about that I want to share with you. One, if you're wondering why you see little scraps of black plastic out here, it's because that is the remnants of our biodegradable plastic that we used for our raised beds. It will completely disappear, but sometimes there are some scraps left over the following year. It doesn't really pose any problems, but every once in a while it can get wrapped up on my coulters down there or my trash removers. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So this is the no-till coulter, this little fluted, wavy coulter that kind of goes ahead of the double disc openers just to break the ground up, especially when you're on hard no-till ground. These remove trash, rocks and things like that, so they don't get run over by the unit and bounce up and down and make your seed not be down in the furrow. So sometimes I will see plastic get wrapped up in here. You know, like right now, it looks like I see a little piece of string right there. You know, we don't want stuff in there that can get eventually work its way into the bearings. That's probably an old piece of tomato twine. It's trying to come out. There we go. Yeah, you don't want stuff like that getting in your bearings. These coulters up front are for putting on the liquid nitrogen, but like I said, I'm no longer using those, so I really don't even need that on there. But I decided to leave it on there just in case I ever do go back. And then the other thing I wanted to show you, here's a perfect example of what the trench looks like. So you can see my insecticide down inside the trench. It makes about a 2-inch trench, and then there's the seeds that got dropped out as I was lifting my planter up, and it looks like we got a double. I'll just spread that little guy out. So yeah, the seeds are down there about 1.5 inches, it looks like. And you know, we got another double there. That's the problem with finger pickup units. Sometimes you get doubles and skips. So, you know, there is an adjustable brush on there that I am adjusting depending on the size of seed I am planting. I got it set on setting number 1 right now because this is some larger seed. All right, after 2 passes, we pretty much used up all that old corn. Now we're dumping our first bag of new corn. I never did look to see how many seeds per pound this is. 34.64. Whew, that's pretty small. I didn't realize it was that small. I think I'm gonna adjust my brush to the number 3 position now that I see that. I thought this was 2,500. I almost forgot my seed powder, my graphite. Put a little sprinkle of that down in there. You want to keep those finger pickup units lubed with graphite. And I just use this little piece of PVC, give it a little stir. All right, now we're ready to roll. Well, I just finished up planting about 4 acres over there across the creek in our conventional ground, but I want to put another acre out of kickoff. And I was gonna put some in this field, not right here in front of me, that's where some plastic's gonna go, but right beside that, kind of in between those 2 greenhouses. But there's some rain washouts there that I didn't know about them when I had my cultivator over here earlier today. So I'm gonna have to save that little piece of ground for another planting. So we're gonna go ahead and start in this field here. It's a 17-acre no-till field. It's got waterways all through it. So it's a big hassle to plant soybeans and field corn on, but it's perfect for small plots of sweet corn. So I lowered my depth to 1.5 inches because this is a lot firmer, more solid. You know, it's not been tilled at all in years and years. So I'm gonna do a little run at 1.5 inches. We'll get off and check it and make sure it's deep enough. I'm just gonna put another 1 to 1.5 acres of kickoff out here on this no-till ground, and sweet corn planting number 1 will be done. All right, just finished up planting sweet corn. I ended up getting 4 acres in the ground. Feels great to have that first one done, and now we're gonna be planting more corn every 10 days, all the way through spring and summer until mid-July. Next up will be green beans here in just 2 weeks. So lots of good farming content coming your way. The season is just beginning. I actually just finished up doing a live stream, and many of you watching this right now were probably in the chat and watching the live stream, so I appreciate that. And there were some good questions that were asked in the chat, and one of them was, how much do I plan on charging for my sweet corn this year at farmers markets? And I got to thinking about that, and you know, I actually haven't really determined my pricing strategy for any of my crops yet. But, you know, because of the rising cost of inputs, some things are going to have to increase in price. Sweet corn, I don't know yet. But going by last year's prices, our price ranged between $7 and $10, really $7 and $9 for a baker's dozen for 13 ears. But we sell a lot of our corn in small increments, like 1 ear, 3 ears, 4 ears, or even a half dozen. We were doing $1 per ear, $5 for a half dozen. So when you look at it that way, we probably averaged closer to $10 a dozen. So I'm curious what those of you that are growers and going to be selling sweet corn at markets this year, what are you going to be charging? And those of you who purchase sweet corn at farmers markets, what did you pay last year, and what do you expect to pay for a dozen ears of corn this year? Let me know down in the comments below. This is where we're going to wrap this one up today, folks. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I will see you all again next time down on the farm.